that we need to start addressing issues that will allow us to work together to tear down internal trade barriers and get our products to market. This is what it looks like, is that we have hard conversations about the things we need to build. And if it doesn't work, then I guess I'll have to work with the United States.
We have all been told that Canada is finally working together, and a lot of people have kind of fallen for it because it's been just pushed everywhere. The media is saying it, the politicians are saying it, and to be fair, we're like somewhat kind of seeing it from even conservative premiers. Danielle Smith has been very willing to work with other premiers to get the job done. She's worked with Doug Ford, and even though Doug Ford is a big time liberal, it's come out somewhat favorable, ideally. And same with Mark Carney. I mean, Danielle Smith has worked with Mark Carney to get some stuff done, and they both speak highly of each other. Danielle Smith also tried working with the radical communist premier out of British Columbia, David Eby. And David Eby is refusing to work with Danielle Smith. And so now Danielle Smith is getting pissed off because what Alberta wants out of Canada is to get a pipeline. Alberta needs more pipelines. Ramp up production, make more money, enough with the kumbaya, just get it done. And Danielle Smith and Alberta are out of kumbaya. So naturally, she goes on mainstream media to talk with CTV Vashi Capellos about how she's just out of kumbayas. So we're going to be taking a look at this. It's a phenomenal interview. Vashi does try to push back against the Alberta premier, and Danielle Smith just puts her in her place and shines light on the fact that Mark Carney is, you know, a backstabbing liberal prime minister. Before we get into it, though, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. Without further ado, here we go.
You said last week when you made the announcement about back, being a proponent for the initial phase, it's a test of whether Canada works or not. And kind of in the same vein as I'm asking about labeling David Eby as un-Canadian, like, why take it to that level? And ultimately, if you're going to make that kind of threat or ultimatum, like, what happens if you get a no on this? Does that mean that Canada doesn't work? And what does that mean that you do in response?
Well, I can tell you that Albertans are questioning whether Canada works. And I'm not telling anything you don't know. There's a very active group that thinks Canada's broken. And so I suppose I could just go down to the United States and start working with American counterparts to see if we can build more pipelines. They've expressed an interest in restarting the Keystone XL. And I suppose we could maybe sell another 1 million or 2 million barrels a day additional to the United States. But I believed the premiers and I believed the prime minister when they said they wanted us to work like a country, that they wanted us to open new markets. And that's what I'm doing. In goodwill, I am going and building the case. That's why I was in Quebec. It's why I'm in Toronto tomorrow. It's why I'm in Ottawa. And it's why I'm going to continue traveling the country, is that when I heard my fellow premiers say that we need to start addressing issues that will allow us to work together to tear down internal trade barriers and get our products to market, this is what it looks like, is that we have hard conversations about the things we need to build. And if it doesn't work, then I guess I'll have to work with the United States. But that then is a failure, in my opinion. That's kind of,
because it's not Canada first. Ideally, Canada would thrive economically. We would thrive with our morale. And honestly, it would unite the left and the right. And we would actually be able to focus on a Canada first, a real Canada first movement if Alberta was able to make their freaking pipeline. Let them cook. Let them make the money. Let Alberta prosper. But no, it's not happening. Liberals, communist NDP are getting in the way. And this threat to move to America, to move the business to America, 100% is the way to go. If this keeps happening, these blockades keep happening, Alberta is just going to deal directly with the United States. And to be honest, President Trump would love that. And then, above and beyond that, President Trump would be more likely to recognize the Republic of Alberta as an independent state, just like how Canada recognized Palestine as an independent state. Kind of crazy. So this could be good, it could be bad, depends what side of the coin you land on, but Smith and Alberta, they're not messing around anymore.
Is a failure of the exercise. The whole reason why we've had this recalibration in Canada in the last 8 months is because people are nervous that we are too reliant on the United States. So changing so that we become even more reliant on the United States seems to be a failure.
When you invoke the separatist sentiment, though, are you threatening in the eventuality, or the possibility rather, that this is a no, that you will throw support behind that endeavor? Like, what is it exactly that will happen if you deem Canada to be broken? And just to push back a little bit, like the construction of TMX, I know you criticize the taxpayer dollars behind that,
yeah,
but ultimately it has had a massive germane impact on the differential,
yeah,
greatly increased the amount of money coming into provincial and federal coffers,
yeah,
right? Like, it's not as though there have been no efforts on the part of other provinces or the federal government to make sure that Albertans see the economic benefit of the oil and gas that sits underneath your province. So to characterize it as such feels unfair.
We have a $6.5 billion deficit. The federal government has a $100 billion deficit. You don't eliminate that by printing money out of thin air. You eliminate that by investing in projects that build wealth. And the kind of things that build wealth are pipelines to markets that want them. If we build a 1 million barrel a day pipeline to the BC coast, that's another $20 billion a year in GDP, 40% of which goes to governments, half to the federal government and half to the provincial government. Why would we settle? Why would we settle with running nothing but deficits? Why would we settle with the problems that we have at the federal level that even the PBO is warning about is getting very dire? We've got to start finding ways to be able to build things again. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure that Canadians are on board and understand what that looks like, because we can't have the next 10 years be like the last 10 years. We have to build a lot more of the kinds of projects like TMX for the benefit of
and we don't know if it's going to happen. That's the craziest part of all this, is everything that Mark Carney's been touting right now about Canada First, Canada United. We're literally hearing from the premier, right from her own mouth, that it's not even true. Like, it's not happening. Even though they've announced all these projects, it's really not friggin' happening. It's wild to see this.
You had some very, very, harsh words for him today. You called him un-Canadian in his opposition to this pipeline. Is that not going too far? I mean, can't someone have an opinion that differs than yours on what economic growth looks like in this country and still very much be a Canadian?
Well, I would just ask you to look at his video, which I think stepped over the line. I mean, it is fine to disagree. I try to find ways in which we can find common ground, and we've got lots of common ground. We've worked together on trying to advance ammonia export. I support his LNG projects. We have biodiesel that is produced in our province that is destined for the BC market. And we've talked about interties and how we would be able to support each other on that. We have a difference of opinion on this, and I do think it's unconstitutional. It has been determined by the courts that these kinds of things, trade and commerce, as well as ports and interprovincial infrastructure, are federal issues. And the reason for that is that we can't have a single parochial province blocking the aspirations of another. That's not how we were supposed to function as a country. So it is the very definition of what Canada is that we work together on these things. And so I was disappointed to hear his comments, but in the end, it's up to Mark Carney to make the decision on that. And so that's why I'm working with the Prime Minister.
And I do understand even characterizing what he said as unconstitutional because of your belief, and I think the Constitution backs it up, that this is federal jurisdiction. But calling him un-Canadian is a very specific way to describe someone who disagrees with you fundamentally on one issue around economic development. Why go that far, and what purpose does it serve?
Well, what's the whole point of why we're having the conversations that we are about tearing down internal trade barriers and finding new markets? It's because we're all facing a threat from our greatest friend and trading partner, the United States, and the instability he's created that Donald Trump has created in our relationship here. And so we have signed agreements, both among the Western premiers as well as among the national premiers, that will work together to develop economic corridors that include all of the above. It doesn't say we're going to include everything except the products produced in Alberta. And so I would say that the will of the people of Canada is that they want their leaders to work together to try to find those export markets. It's very obvious to me that the best opportunity that we have to find new markets is in Asia. And the way you get to Asia is you have to get your products to the west coast of British Columbia. And so that's the reason why we've identified that, along with those who are advising us, as the best opportunity for us to be able to develop those markets. And I would hope that he would agree and that he would work with us on it.
Do you think he's going to do that when you call him un-Canadian for presenting an opposition at this juncture?
You know, he began it, and I hope he dials his rhetoric back because I'll be very frank about what I think of premiers who are trying to block other premiers from getting their products to market. So I would say that I think he went a little bit far yesterday. I hope he's regretting it. I know he's been ratioed quite badly on his video, which is a suggestion to me that he's not expressing the views of British Columbians. When we've done our own polling on this, we found that 75% of Canadians do want to see new pipeline access built. And there's only a couple of places that you can go when you're building new pipelines if you want to stay within Canada. One is to the East Coast, one is to the West Coast, and the West Coast just makes the most sense.
Premier Smith is not messing around. She is 100% serious for Alberta that if Canada, if the Prime Minister, if other premiers are not willing to work with her, she will go and take that energy superpower and just go make that money elsewhere. And this herein lies the sentiment that a lot of Albertans, growing more and more every day, have, that belonging to Canada is literally toxic and dragging down the province, which could actually be top 5 richest countries per capita in the entire world. Alberta has so much resources and they're willing to do it, but they get all this red tape and it's gross to see. So let me know down below in the comments how you feel about this. Do you think that this is a bold move from Premier Smith, or do you think this is reckless? Where do you stand on this? I personally think that this is a final warning that Danielle Smith is issuing to the Prime Minister and to David Eby. But I could be wrong. Let me know what you guys think down below. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, subscribe. I'll see you in another one. Bye for now.